Hello, everybody. So today's scripture reading is 1 Samuel 17. I am starting this reading in verse 20 and going to the bottom. So David got up early in the morning, left the flock with a keeper, picked up the provisions, and went just as Jesse had directed him. And he came to the encampment as the army was going out to battle formation, shouting the battle cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle formation against army. Then David left his provision in the care of a supply keeper, ran to the ranks, and came up and greeted his brothers. As he was talking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines. And he spoke these same words again, and David heard him. When the men of Israel all saw the man, they fled from him and were very frightened. The men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who's coming up? Surely he's coming up to defy Israel. The king will the king will reward the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter in marriage, and make his father's house family free from taxes and service in Israel." Then David spoke to the men who were standing by, and he says, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes the disgrace from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God?" The men told him, "That is what will be done for the man who kills him." Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard what he said to the men, and his anger burned against David. And he said, "Why have you come down here? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know you're overconfident and the evil of your heart, for you've come down in order to see the battle." But David said, "What have I done now? Was it not just a harmless question?" Then David turned away from his brother to someone else and asked the same question, and the people gave him the same answer as the first time. When the words that David spoke were heard, the men reported them to Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no man's courage fail because of Goliath. Your servant will go out and fight with this Philistine." Then Saul said to David, "You're not able to go out against this Philistine to fight him, for you're only a young boy, and he's been a warrior since his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant was out tending his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and attacked it and rescued the lamb from its mouth. And when it rose up against me, I seized it by the whiskers and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God." David said, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, may the Lord be with you." Then Saul dressed David in his garments, put a bronze helmet on his head, and put a coat of mail on him. Then David fastened his sword over the armor and tried to walk, but he couldn't, because he was not used to them. And David said to Saul, "I can't go out with these, because I'm not used to them." So David took it all off, and then he took his shepherd's staff in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones out of the stream and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, that is the shepherd's pouch. With his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistine came and approached David with his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked around and saw David, he derided and disparaged him because he was just a young man with a ruddy complexion and a handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with a shepherd's staff?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field." Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you've taunted. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the corpses of the army of the Philistines to this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there's a God in Israel." And that's the entire and that the entire assembly will know that the Lord does not save with sword or with spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will hand you over to us." When the Philistine rose and came forward to meet David, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. David put his hand into his bag, took out a stone, and slung it and struck him in the forehead. The stone penetrated into his forehead, and he fell face down to the ground. So David triumphed over Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck down the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in David's hand. So he ran and stood over the Philistine, grasped his sword, and drew it out of the sheath, and killed him and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their mighty champion was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and Judah stood with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance to the valley of the gates of Ekron. And the fatally wounded Philistines fell away, even as far as Gath and Ekron. The sons of Israel returned from their pursuit of the Philistines and plundered their camp. Then David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. When Saul saw David go out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the captain of the army, "Abner, whose son is this young man?" And Abner answered, "By your life, O king, I don't know." The king said, "Ask whose son this young man is." When David returned from killing Goliath, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, and the head of the Philistine was in his hand. Saul asked, "Whose son are you, young man?" And David answered, "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem."